All this GXCC racing action is powered by Black Iron and brought to you by their associate sponsors. With a 5-week gap in between the opening round of the GXCCs that was held at Bronkhorstspruit, the tour then moved on to a new venue. A classic venue that we know about in Fochville, but a brand new farm to work on. At the opening round, we saw a couple of riders walk away with their first ever wins and a couple of riders trying to defend their titles. This week, we focus in on round number 2, and it's all about the juniors and the quads to see if we can see repeat winners or new winners, which is no doubt going to change up the championship chase. With the memories of GXCC round number 1 in Bronkhorstspruit 5 weeks in the past, it was now time to get ready and lock and load going into Fochville, our host venue for round number 2 of the GXCC Tour. A nice, massive farm for everyone to work out. It was going to be a 51-kilometer loop for the quads and a 12-kilometer mixed and varied terrain layout for our juniors. This was going to be testing, and we may well see new names climb to the top of the pile this time around. As the riders got nervous, got twitchy, it was flag drop time for our senior 85s to open up our racing account. Josh Alexander was good off the gate, but not as good as Curvis Bester, who was our round number 1 winner and was looking to back that up with another win. Johnson was also in close attendance. For the junior 85s, the big story was elbows up for Thor Johnson and Keanu Fisser. They would taste clear air in the early stages and try and break away from the chasing pack. Very technical in the early running before the track opened up in the second half of the 12-kilometer loop. 65s, it was the whole shot once again for the unstoppable Bruno Nabier. He was out and gone and trying to get his first win of the season underway. 65s once again on the junior category, giving us our biggest gate. And our 50cc's joined them in the numbers as once again Matty Mayer pulled the big hole shot, and he had John-Luc van der Westhuizen in close attendance as the rest battled to find the big hookup in the early stages outside the top 5. No sign of round number 1 winner, Milan. The juniors out on loop. This is what it looked like out there come race time. On the 50cc gate, we focused in on some of our junior competitors as Ewan Fourie had a little bit of a fall down there as he tried to chase down on Willow Johnson. That was our 8th and 7th positions. Josh Spencer was doing the big chase down. He'd run such good pace before he had problems at round number 1, and this time around he picked himself up as the first position on the podiums. That gave him a number 6 ride. Wilco Deploy was right there in a number 5, and Wyatt Walter made a strong return. One of the juniors is looking to make the move up in the 65s for next year. He walked away with a number 4 spot. Derek Milan, round number 1 winner, couldn't repeat his form from just 5 weeks prior and had to settle for a number 3 spot. Ride of the day coming out of Carter Bloxham. He came real strong the whole way through and was in a titanic battle with Matty Mayer. This time around though, Mayer walks away with his first GXCC win, and that'll give him the championship lead as well. Here's confirmation of the win going to Mayer ahead of Bloxham and Milan. Walter, Deploy and Spencer squeezing out on the podiums inside the top 6. But now we've got Mayer leading the championship charge into round number 3. Climbing up our CC ladder into the 65s, which gave us huge racing happening the whole way through. Jaden Ells managed to get himself up there into a number 8 spot. He was dicing it out with Ethan Hall, eventually knocking Hall down to a number 9. Miguel Cavina was so strong on the J108, walking up to a number 7, and then after stalling out on the line, Mackenzie Bam miracled the ride to get herself up into a number 6 position to keep her championship hopes alive. A gutsy ride out of Bam after what could have been a real tough day at the office. She diced it out on her comeback trail with the single remaining Kawasaki out there. That's Tali Stratum. Tali did a good enough job. Slightly bigger dude as well, lasting it out in the more rougher terrain to bring his Kawasaki up to a number 5 finish, his highest ride on the season. Last of the Mohicans, always strong, always consistent. Hanu Kok, just one position off the top 3, walks away with number 4 spot and starts to build nicely for his championship. Bruno Navier, even though he walked away with a whole shot, had to settle for a number 3 come the flag. But once again, he is bringing home rock and roll rides. Brandon Clark had terrible bad luck at round number 1 and had to accept a DNF. This time around, he starts his championship campaign with a rock and roll number 2 spot. Damien Fenter was a surprise package at the end of last season and then walked away as round number 1 winner on the Yamaha. He is our first 2 for 2 on the tour as he walks away with wins at round number 1 and round number 2.
Well, I didn't get the good start. Well, I think I clicked it in the wrong gear. But yeah, I managed to get to the front. Very fast. Well, the track was marked perfectly. No mistakes. I wanted to thank you to my mom and dad and all my supporters.
So our 2-time winner on the tour, Clarkey, starts his charge in second place. Consistency coming in for Ruban Racing's Bruno, Hanu de Kock, Tali Stratum and Mackenzie Bam. An amazing ride. Then into our junior 85s, where Thor Johnson dropped from the whole shot to a number 10 spot. 9 went to Chandre Vermaak and Henry Jens van Rensburg inside of a number 8. Johan Appelman and Nellis van Vuren were dicing things out, trying to close things down on Franco Ferri to challenge for a top 4. And in it, they were pushing each other to the max, and mistakes were coming thick and fast for a lot of the junior riders. The kids that made it, though, into the rockstar mode. That is 1, 2, and 3. Third place went to Zach Johnson, who's starting to become a real consistent rider. Maybe he didn't have the long legs from some of the other bikes, but his technical nature brought him all the way up to a number 3 spot. A standout ride on the day went to the J410 of Kleko McKenny. He is starting to become a polished rider and definitely a threat for the championship with 6 rounds still to go. He takes a number 2 spot, his highest ever GXCC ride. And the win going to Keanu Visser, one of the riders who had his elbows up, banging bars early on with Thor Johnson. He came out clean and ran clean air and was the rider that dominated throughout the rest of the day's 2 hours of racing format. Confirmation of Visser's win ahead of McKenny. Johnson stringing together some good results for his 3rd place ahead of Ferri, Van Vuren and Opperman. Those were your podium places inside of a top 6. And then into our senior 85s, which gave us strong racing. Even though he had to retire, we did get 10 points on the plate for round number 1 winner, Kobus Bester. Then Xander Mayberg, Hayden de Swart got up into a number 8. Nicole Duplessis, 1 place off her highest ever finish. That was number 6 at the opening round. She drops down to 7th this time around. She is consistent though. 6 and 7 on the tour is going to put her in good shape. Now moving up onto the box and into the podium places, Chandre Vermaak, the 2nd of the Black Iron Racing squad, was chasing down all day on the top Honda man, the 233 of Christian Swartz. And then the key players, Leon van Veek, always going to be bringing home top 4 rides the whole way through the tour as we start to head and get ready for round number 3 at another brand new venue. Gabriel DeToy on the C95 stayed well out of trouble, not too bad off the gate, and was able to run clear air in those first 2 laps. The all-important hole shot starting to become a key feature for our junior competitors. Josh Alexander had the elbows up and had to walk away with a number 2 spot this time around, but also a massive ride. Then Troy Johnson, who had been in the race in the early running with Kobus Bester until he crashed out. 2nd place at round number 1, now a win at round number 2. Troy Johnson is your points leader.
It was rough. It had a lot of rocks, but it was a tough track. But then we actually rode fast for the amount of rocks there was.
So round number 2 sees Troy Johnson at the top of the pile for the first time in the season, ahead of Alexander and DeToy. Bester, 10th place, will hurt his championship.
Yeah, the juniors were thrown into the deep end with a track that was maybe a little bit more bumpy than what they're used to. But overall feedback was the guys loved it. A little bit challenging in some areas. We had a section down at the bottom where the little ones had to cross over some rocky area to cross over a little ravine. Found it challenging, but they all made it. And I think it's a step in the right direction to actually get them to challenge themselves and become better riders.
Great racing from our juniors. After the break, we focus in on the quad ladies and quad masters categories. before the break, it was the juniors rocking and rolling on the track. Now, the big senior loop opened up by our quad ladies. But before we went into today's event, let's talk about what happened at round number 1.
It was a very nice race, difficult but nice and fast. The only reason why I got second place was Marty's bike broke down.
Okay, I had some problems on the 700 the previous race, so I haven't tested it yet. And last weekend we did another race, so I've tested it 450 and it felt good, so I'm going to try it on the GXCC.
I'm not too sure, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm quite excited. So we'll see what happens today. They were saying it's a fast track.
I think fast, but yeah, hopefully there's tight sections with the lighter bike, so I think it will be an advantage. So.
With a modest entry of ladies, it was going to be all-important whole shot racing once again. And as always, Gnarly gets the drop off the line, and almost the same as always, a bad start this time around for Motti, as she has to wait her chance to come through the whole shot alley before she can taste clear air. By the time she's going to make the pass on the other girls, it's going to be goodbye Carly out front. For Celeste Berger and Renette Duplessis, this was their best chance to try and upset the apple cart and change up the championship, as even by the end of the whole shot queue, Marty could not make the passes count. Celeste Berger eventually walked away with a third place with the demise of Carly Simon. Carly unable to complete lap number 1, so she'll take her first big hit and her first DNF of the season. Celeste, this is 2 top 3s on the bounce. Renette Duplessis gets to bag and tag her highest ever GXCC finish as she starts to build confidence and walks away with a very solid ride in a number 2 spot. That'll change up the battle for second and third in the championship as we head to round number 3. And for Monty Backfisher, this will be her first win of the GXCC Tour, and she'll take the podium at round number 1, add it to the win at round number 2, and she will be the lady to beat for the rest of the season. The switch to 450 definitely change up her riding style and her format, as well as her approach to the race. She sees the checkers at round 2.
As you said, I got to win, not as I wanted to. Carly unfortunately broke down first lap. But yeah, on the start I've made a big mess with my start, so yeah, I've stalled the bike. And yeah, I've managed to get through and pass the guys. Compared to the Raptor 700, I would say ish Aina, because all of this bumpy stuff. But yeah, it's quite nice. I want to see what I've done against the others. So yeah, I'll check the times and see how I've done. So.
Gnarly Carly gets a DNF. That's going to give her a big 0 on points. Celeste Berger in third, Duplessis in second, and Backfisher is your championship leader heading to round number 3. Next up, our Masters bringing it to the line.
Well, I'm expecting a little bit sort of more straights, because I've got a 700, which is better suited for this kind of terrain.
I believe it's quite big from what I've seen, so you know, there's a lot of fast, flat-out stuff. You know, it's not the best for the quads, but it is what it is. We're going to go out today. I'm going to ride it like I stole it, and I've got to get on the podium today just to keep the championship alive.
Of all people, Brian knows the value of the whole shot. He almost got it as well this time around, as a couple of guys bogged down off the line. Brian was on the inside, but Curvis Ferreira was on the outside, swept across, and he would see clear air. But importantly, Brian Herbst was in the 2 spots, and even more importantly, it was 6 out of the gate for Philip Boyce, our round number 1 winner. Boyce was in the dust in the early stages of the race. Out there on course though, come the end of play, Chris Lessing did a good enough job to walk away with a number 9 spot as he tried to close down on the gap to William Wilson. These guys were dicing it out for 8 and 9 the whole way through the day. Francois Berger was a little bit further up the road, but unfortunately Berger had his issues. He was one of our standout stars on round number 1, and this time around he just had a problem around about the half race distance, ended up having to retire out of the race, but still tagged enough to get a number 7, and that'll help his points tally. He'll tag that onto his 3rd place out of round number 1. Brian Herbst also, even though he was running in line for a win, he was either going to be 1st or 2nd until he had catastrophic bearing problems, which threw his chain out, and he eventually had to tag a 6th place finish. That meant Pete Swanepoel was going to be moving up into a number 5 spot, and the Swannies Racing squad will once again bringing home podium placings. That's 2 top 6s on the bounce for Big Swanee. Nico Swart was charging hard, trying to get onto the back wheel of Curvis Ferreira, and the 266 and L52 were locked, pretty much matched the whole way through the tour on day number 2. Nico was a 4th. Curvis walked away with a 3rd. That's a number 2 and a number 3, which will give Ferreira second place in the championship as we head to round number 3. Richard Kutsia walks away with his highest ever GXCC finish as he got a good gate and seemed to really enjoy the format and the style of the fast 51-kilometer loop. Richard Kutsia walks away with second place at round number 2 at Fochville. And then incredibly enough, even though he didn't get the gate that he wanted to, round number 1 winner, Philip Boyce, managed to charge through. Everyone else had problems, made mistakes. Boyce came through, and in the Masters Quad category is your first 2-time winner on the tour as he extends his championship lead out front.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable. We didn't expect it to be so fast and flowing. It was a bit of an engine killer. I didn't think I'll make it past the 3rd lap with this engine. But it was fun. It didn't tire you out as much. Yeah, just great fun today.
The Quad Masters Championship will be a nail-biter as we move forward as a 2-time winner Philip Boyce confirms his position ahead of Kutsia, Ferreira, Smith and Swanepoel. Herbs still gets 6th though. Join us after the break as we go into our Q2 and Q1 classes to wrap up shop at Fochville. Welcome back to Fochville for our continued coverage of the GXCC round number 2, picking up now on the Q2 category.
I'm not sure what to expect. We're hoping for the best and we're just going to see what happens.
My thoughts for today are just to try and get a whole start, keep clean air. I don't like dust, so trying to stay ahead of that.
Yeah, it's going to be important, but well, I'm slow on my start, so I'm working on it.
Quads, everyone is going for the cheese into the first turn. This time around, David Stratum got the hook up absolutely perfect, and it was going to be his big hole shot as he took round number 1 winner along for the ride. That was Ati Simon coming in, but coming out of the hole shot queue, Janneman Besadenhout, one of our podium places from round number 1, put his name in the hat as he went out of the hole shot into the number 2 spot. On course, Stefan Ferreira, he was dicing it out for a 4 and 5 last time around. This time around, issues on the bike, a faulty battery dropping him down to an eventual number 10 finish. That meant Reinhard Swart was the first of our top single digits, moving up into a number 9 spot and really enjoying the race format here at round number 2 of the Championship Tour. Janneman Besadenhout couldn't convert his great start into a good race. He also suffered some mechanical issues late on to drop down into an eventual number 8 finish. He'll still be challenging for a top 5 in the championship though, with that good points haul. Paul Duplessis is starting to work on his fitness as the season gets longer, and he was just off the box in a number 7 position as he diced all day with Peter Simon Deploy. This time Deploy getting the first of the podiums inside of a top 6. Consistency is what the game is all about, and for Christian Ferreira, the second of the Ferreira brothers, it was a massive number 5, and that's going to cement his position as a top 4 championship hopeful threat. Top 4 on the day this time around, the first time we have had him out on the 2020 tour racing the GXCCs. Vian van Zyl, who comes in with a lot of form, having taken a ton of wins further up in the country, takes 4th place at his first time out. Not the gate that he wanted. CD Goosen, always famous for getting a real good drop off the line. This time he had to plough the field and fight through traffic to get his number 3 ride. Ati Simon, who was a runaway winner from a flag-to-flag ride at round number 1, this time didn't get the gate and had to settle for a number 2 spot because David Stratum had him all day long. On the season, this is David Stratum's first flag-to-flag. Didn't quite get the overall, but he did get the category win and absolutely dominated in the Q2s. So desperate to nail down his championship in 2020.
Yeah, it was awesome. Whole shot again, sees these tires doing what they do best. So I hit second gear and I didn't see the rest of the field. From there, it was actually very slippery, the start. It's still a lot of dew on the grass, so it was slippery. Overshot 2 corners, got past, had to overtake them back in about 5 Ks. And then from there, I just pinned it all the way to the finish. I could see the guy behind me, very, very close behind me every time. I think it's within a few seconds. So yeah, it looks good. Q2 win, and I think I'm 20 seconds behind the overall winner. So very pleased.
So round 2 of the GXCCs is where Stratum starts to build on his championship. Second place for Ati Simon will still give him the championship lead though, heading into round number 3 of the series. Next up, the Q1s and everyone chasing down on round number 1 winner, the Busman. Jacques Struwik.
Well, and looks fun, and hopefully it's going to be much faster than the last one.
Well, it's all virgin territory for all of us, which is nice from Black Iron's side, bringing in all new farms that nobody raced, so it's the same for all of us, the first loop. But yeah, good job from them and all the people that support me, Triple S, Liquid Molly, Polysport, all the oaks out there. They make it possible for us to enjoy our weekends.
Try to take the lead or just stick behind Gideon and try to push him.
Out of the gate though, it looked like everyone was going to be sticking behind Stewie Fell as he got a miracle start once again. So good off the whole shot in 2020. He took Busman along for the ride with Swanee getting forced wide and Gideon not getting the gate that everyone expected him to. He had to fight back from outside the top 5 and came out of the queue in the number 3 spot. Out there on course though, an eventual number 9 finish. He would take a crash and have to retire early on. That knocked Christian Nell down to 9th come the end of play. But he'll take the points and recover going forward into round number 3. Stefanos Muller was a little bit loose on the Can-Am racing out there. He managed to tag himself a number 8 ride and certainly enjoyed the long straights and the open terrain. Quintus Swanepoel out of the 421 Racing Squad did a nice job as well. Got forced out off the start a little bit and had to fight to remain inside the top 7. Ramon Lopez, his loose style of riding on the Sign Wonder TRX was absolute joy to behold as he just hung it out there and got onto the box once again with a number 6 ride. Stewie Fell, even though he got the miracle start, could not hang on to the pace come race time and he dropped down from a number 1 out of the gate to a number 5 come finish line. Stefan Swanepoel, who's been doing a little bit of experimentation on his TRX, trying to crowbar a CRF 450 engine into it, still working with development, and he managed to get his good finish going with a number 4 after a retirement at round number 1. Keenan Hammond, his approach to 2020 was all about being a little bit smoother and a little bit more consistent. Even though his ragged style doesn't tell you that, he was holding something back on the day just to make sure he brought home a finish. Once again, it was 3rd on points. Gideon Jakob seems to have one of those mechanical seasons running at the moment, but even though he has a little bit of bad luck, he's able to bounce back. A broken AM at round number 1, this time broken brakes, but still somehow bringing it home for a number 2 spot. And for Busman Struwik, he's got no pressure on him at the moment. For Jacques, he was able to run early on. The pass was put on him by Gideon, but then mechanical came into play and given the advantage back to the Busman. On the Q1s, he's our first 2 for 2 on the season. Right now, Jacques Struwik is doing it all right. 2 wins on the bounce, beating out Jacobs, but when Jacobs gets it all together, everyone is going to be in trouble. Hammond, Swanepoel and Fell round out the top 5.
Spoke to the guys, they said they were longing for some fast sections, which they got. 2.2 kilometer long straight at one of the sections, and the guys loved it. So, yeah, maybe this one was, in some people's minds, too fast, if you want to look at it that way, but we have to mix it up and give the guys fast races, slow races, loopy races, and we'll work on all of that to throw that into the mix for the year.
So as Vion says, really good feedback from our juniors and our quads. Now next week, it's going to be an absolute belter as we look forward into the second show coming in from round number 2, which will be a pure focus on all of our motorcycle categories, where no doubt we'll be announcing some new winners and some crazy fast lap times coming in from the awesome event at Fochville. This GXCC racing action was powered by Black Iron and brought to you by their associate sponsors.